And I guess I start by introducing former Director of Fire and Emergency Services, Gordon Wren, and crew. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve, and good morning, Rockland. With us today, we have Heather Federico from the Coupon Mawa.
Hello.
And Danielle Meehan from Coupon Airmont.
Good morning.
Chris Kier is on vacation, and we may be discussing some controversial topics today. So Justin, Junior Commander, has opted out because, he's afraid of controversy. So we do for a commercial, Steve?
No, actually, you're commercial free, so go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Perfect.
Very, very good. All right. Well, the two ladies here today are two women of valor, people that I really admire. They have, they're not afraid to take on a good fight, and I admire their energy and their commitment. And so, Heather, welcome.
Hello.
And Danielle, welcome.
Good morning.
So anyway, we'd like to start right off the bat with, Coupon is a group called Citizens United to Protect Our Neighborhoods, and we were formed as sort of as a sister organization to the Illegal Housing Task Force. And we will literally take on municipalities and builders when projects are proposed for a community that is not in the best interest of everyone, or it could be really negative for a lot of people. And they've been pretty successful. The Illegal Housing Task Force started in 2009, and we follow violations and determine how municipalities handle them. And which leads us to yesterday's Journal News in Low Hood. County offers to inspect buildings. That's the headline in the front page of the Journal News. And it's related to the criminal probe that was continuing in the fatal fire at the Evergreen Court, and the phone's going in. So the situation in Spring Valley is bad, has been bad for a long time. We've been aware of it. We've been beating the drum for a number of years. Several years ago, a monitor was assigned to the town of Rampo, even though we had requested monitors in the town of Rampo and four of its villages. They only assigned monitors to Rampo and Spring Valley. And that what took place, what has been taking place in these in the village of Spring Valley is sort of spread from Rampo. It's a philosophy of lack of enforcement. Look the other way, allow builders and others to convert buildings and occupy property without the proper public hearings, site plan approvals, variances, permits, and inspections. So the monitor system did not work. In February, a month before the fatal fire, we filed yet another complaint with the state of New York Building and Codes Division against the town and several of its villages, including Spring Valley. So when we took a trip up to Albany about 3 years ago to complain that the monitoring system was not working, and the commissioner of codes in response to that said Rampo's doing a great job, and they terminated the monitor.
Oh my gosh.
And the monitor that was assigned to Rampo became the monitor for Spring Valley. And we see how that's going, how that, despite the monitor being there, things did not improve, things got worse. There may be some minor changes here and there. So I'd like to thank Ed Day for stepping forward and offering to take over. Assemblyman Ken Zabrowski has been working with us and County Executive Day for quite some time to try and address this frustrating situation where administrations, for whatever reason, refuse to adequately enforce the codes, which is so essential to protecting lives. So in yesterday's article, Assemblyman Zabrowski, I'd like to just read one quote. The village has shown an inability to perform the basic function of ensuring the safety of its buildings, and a drastic takeover action is the only option that should be considered. So I agree with that statement, and I think it should be expanded to include the town of Rampo, which would be a monumental task, and several of its villages. Now, ladies here, Mawa abuts Airmont, so a lot of things that happen in Airmont.
Airmont and Ramapo.
And Rampo affect the communities just south of here in Jersey.
Mm-hmm. Correctly.
Water goes, almost all the water on that part of the county goes into New Jersey, along with the sewage and et cetera, and traffic and other environmental issues. So I just described the dysfunction that's been taking place in Rampo and several of its villages, probably 7 of its villages, one of them being Airmont. So you both have been very involved for several years now
Yep.
in addressing those issues in Airmont and the frustration dealing with the government that does not make a priority of protecting their residents and ensuring that the buildings, as much as possible, are brought up to code and maintained that way.
Yeah.
And you have quite a bit of evidence to show that.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
that's correct.
So anyway, let's go into and discuss. We're just talking about Airmont. I mean, we'll talk about other issues too, and we encourage you to call in 845-429-1700. The lines are open, and there have been some recent developments in Airmont, and there's been a change, over the last 3 years in administrations, and the lack of enforcement has become pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Yes, it's quite pervasive, Gordon. You are correct. I think the issues come from the leadership of the village, and it isn't just the lack of enforcing the village laws. Even during village board of trustees meetings, they are routinely breaking laws. And in fact, when I've inquired to the village attorney, he has said that it wasn't important to him to follow village procedures. He asked me to send him a copy of the New York State Open Meetings Law. Again, it comes from the top, and it has, it's very obvious. All you have to do is drive around the village and see what's going on.
Gordon and I met with the former village attorney, and we had several, quite a few meetings, I believe, on email, and we had a sit down with regarding Hillside. And
Well, I think that there's a pattern here.
Right, exactly.
And if you recall, at the time of the election, a group of residents democratically got together and they put through their slate of candidates. And when they won, they told the inspectors, "You're going to be fired.
yeah,
Your days are numbered."
Yes, correct.
So I actually attended the second or third village board meeting under the new mayor and new administration, and we helped prevent that. But there's a pattern. If you have inspectors who enforce the codes firmly, yet fairly, they get penalized. They get in trouble. And they get replaced with people who are more, as the term has been used in Airmont, they're more flexible.
Yes.
So whatever that means. So let's see. We'll pick up this after we listen. We have a caller.
Okay.
We'll take this back up again. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Yehuda Zorger.
Your
Good
name?
morning.
Yehuda.
Good morning,
Good
Yehuda.
morning, Danielle. How are you?
Oh, fine. How are you, Yehuda?
Okay, just want to make one quick point. I'm going to get into a back and forth, but I just want the radio host to be aware of how things work in Airmont. During the previous administration, before there was any change in Airmont, code enforcement only went one way when it came to the Jewish community.
I'm not sure what that means.
Whether it's adding blacktop to a driveway, whether it was changing a roof, whatever it was required for a permit, cutting trees. I myself provided the previous administration with 35 or 40 violations that I witnessed with my own eyes. But I'll give one example. There was a house in Airmont that added almost 40 or 50 feet of blacktop to their driveway without permits. And I kept on calling code enforcement. Later, when I got up at a public meeting and said out loud in public that there's a house doing that, up until then, nothing was done in terms of code enforcement. So
Yeah, we're having the
Daniel
same
Meehan
problem.
can point out to you. I don't want to get into a back and forth. I want to have a respectful conversation. If Daniel Meehan can point out to you where Coupon Airmont was when the 35 or 40 violations I witnessed taking place, why they did not call the village then, why they didn't take pictures, why they didn't post online, they post about the Jewish community. Up until then, all Coupon Airmont is an organization that targets the Jewish community.
Wait a minute. Number one. I'm gonna no. Unless we're not gonna have a conversation. If we're gonna allow you to just rant and make accusations here. Number one, Coupon wasn't formed until just a few years ago, and it was formed because of illegal activities have been taking place, and without the government following up. Now it may
How
be.
do you know why Coupon was formed? Who told you that?
Because I was there for the formation.
You were there for the formation, okay?
Yeah, you know why it was formed? Because we learned that citizens can stop rogue governments.
Okay, so can you point me to where Coupon Airmont has been dealing with illegal issues that involve anyone in the non-Jewish community in Airmont?
Right now, they're concerned, and they had a meeting this week about a battery storage facility at the Orange and Rockland facility. So,
That's not a really. And you got 3 or 4 years of history.
give me a break.
You can point out where Coupon Airmont was involved when I witnessed people cutting off trees on my street, people that were actually loud and busy with others not following codes. Can you point me to where Coupon Airmont has ever been involved?
Listen, I got involved when you and others threatened to fire the inspectors who appeared to be doing a fair job.
You still didn't answer my question. Can you point out to where Coupon Airmont has been involved in code enforcement that does not involve a Jewish person in Airmont?
Yes, Yehuda, this is Danielle. You are welcome to foil. I can't recall the dates, but I have routinely called into the village and notified the village regarding any code enforcement issues. Now, you made a statement saying I am involved in code enforcement. I have nothing to do with how the village. Excuse me, sir. Let me finish. Let me finish. I listened to you.
I never said that.
Yeah, you did. I am not.
You're involved in harassing Jewish people.
If you continue talking over people, sir, we're going to cut you off.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Goodbye.
You too, Yehuda.
You can't have a conversation if you just want to talk. Steve, we have another caller.
Yes.
Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. How are you doing, sir?
Very good.
I can verify that Coupon does not have anything to do with the code enforcement. The issue is it's this preferential treatment. You know how they have like Black Lives Matter? Well, your race and religion matters just like the law. The laws are not being applied to everybody equally.
They're not being. I agree. They're not being applied equally.
And the thing is that they say everybody says anti-Semitic. Well, I'm Catholic and half Jewish, and I'm being anti that I should not be here no more. I should move. Certain municipalities we've called our concerns to, went to them. They said, well, maybe you should move and sell your home. That is not the answer to the question at hand with anybody.
I agree.
Everybody should be treated equally and not equally.
I agree. Caller, everyone should be treated equally. That is really the crux of the issue. Airmont I was involved in the formation of Airmont and most of the other villages close to 40 years ago. And they did it because they were unhappy with the lack of, or the zoning enforcement in the town of Rampo. And
that I do know, sir, quite well. I'm cold-hearted of being, they say anti-Semitic. Well, I'm being discriminated because I'm Catholic. I need to move out of the area that I grew up in because they don't want me cutting my grass on Saturday. I'm violating the laws of certain things in my civil rights. Your civil rights and your religious rights are being violated. Persecution and bigotry, which is bad. And I know everybody in here is upset with the zoning, and not just here; it's all over the county.
Well, we're gonna stick to what we're talking about, which is the zoning and code violations that are going on in the area. But thank you for calling, and
thank you. There's one other area that you can look at. There was another home that was a illegal zoning school on Old Mayor Turnpike.
Okay.
That was a perfect house that burnt down because zoning did not follow through, and it's an illegal yeshiva.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. Well, if you know of anything illegal, you can reach out to us, and we'll try and follow through with it. And our motto is everyone should be treated equally.
That I want to say. Yes, I want to say thank you for having open air conversations and helping people vent out within Rockland County, the village of Airmont. Have a good day.
Thank you for calling, sir.
Thank you, sir.
We got another caller.
Well, that's a dial tone, but good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, I thought you were avoiding us today because it's so controversial.
I am. Steve would allow me to whatever. In relation to that other caller, I just want to state for the record.
Which one?
Mr.
The one that
Zucker?
claims if that was his name, the coupon being anti-Semitic. People got to stop. The whole reason we joined with Coupon is because we needed citizens. I chair the illegal housing and illegal school, private schools task force. And the reason I'm the chair is I'm Orthodox, I'm Jewish. Now, you can call me self-hating Jew, and that's been done. But to say that because you disagree and have this conversation, this is totally wrong. Oh, you're going to go to another and non-Jew? This is equal treatment, equal to all. Housing, we do not discriminate. Fire did not discriminate what happens. And that's what started when people are doing things illegally. And we don't get involved there. The zoning issues, listen, if you win, you lose, we may not, whatever, you do it, you put too much, you pack it in. We deal with what you do without going through the proper channels. And the problems that I am glad that Coupon's there is because you challenge the administration of how they do the laws. And we have seen it time and time again.
And you and Gordon have been to the Senate hearings. You've talked to, major people up in Albany about this. I mean, this isn't like a new topic. It's just not being done. And the result is what happened in Spring Valley. This is like a trickle down, what's going on all over Rockland. Ramapo is leading the charge in this. And,
it's a cancer. It is a cancer of allowing a political persuasion to do what it wants, when it wants, and no consequences.
And the consequences are terrible. Look what happened in Miami. Look what's going on, all over. You have to have building codes.
The codes are in existence, and really, for they're hurting themselves. So we're really.
One of my biggest issues is the overrides.
Heather, I'm just going to leave you with this because you got other callers.
Yep.
It is a shame with New York State. New York State had building codes that was established in 1952. Mm-hmm. It took until the Stouffer's fire that the state of New York made it mandatory for their New York State building codes.
Yes.
And you know what that is? That is a direct quote from the monitor that's in Spring Valley that gave a pass grade to the town of Ramapo. She did this in a lecture. Her name is Erica Krieger, and this is part of the problem. Mm-hmm. They haven't done the job. At least Ed Day is trying. I can't thank enough for the residents and citizens that are telling people, just do your job.
And politics and enforcement of building and fire codes do not go together. There's no way in the world, like the prior caller, should be able to influence inspectors on what is right or what is wrong. And we all can give examples in other communities where they felt it was done unfairly. But anyway, listen, thanks for your dedication, Justin.
Okay. We'll talk to you. I got to run back into the meeting. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. I just want to say one thing. I've been to so many of these building and when people come in with applications, planning board meetings, zoning meetings, and I've never seen so many, not only variances, because, where I live, usually 3 variances is like a red flag, but also like 10, 13 overrides of the GML. Why even bother?
The GML stands, the county planning board will review large projects.
Right, and they chime in.
And they'll recommend that project not be approved.
Right.
And they override them. But
and they're looking at the overall plan, not just the building.
I agree. And they're looking for the impact will have other surrounding communities.
Traffic, right, exactly.
But the variances were not meant to be given out like candy on Halloween.
Exactly.
They're meant to be given out for hardships.
Yes.
Unusual situations, not massive variances. It does away with the intent of use codes and et cetera. So, Steve, do we have another caller rather? Good morning. You're on the air. Hello.
Good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi. This is Eleanor. I am the president of Coupon in Jackson.
Good
Hi,
morning,
Eleanor.
Eleanor.
Oh, Jackson, New Jersey.
Yes, yes. I'm just calling in New York legislative law when it comes to code, and New Jersey is quite different. But what we're seeing down here in Jackson, many residents, they're actually contacting us, Coupon, to address some of the code violations or illegal building violations that are going on in their neighborhood out of fear, because residents in our town are now being targeted. So, I decided to be the head of the targeting. But what we're seeing is code enforcement will go out. They might issue a notice of violation, giving them the opportunity. Then the legal procession in order to get it to court is months down the line. Then they don't show up, or they bring an attorney, and now they're crying all types of racial discrimination instead of addressing the fact that what they're doing is illegal. And it is truly, truly disrupting average American citizens.
It's funny, the head of the illegal housing task force, Justin, who just called in, he was following a number of buildings for since like 2010 and following them through the Ramapo court systems and to see if they were actually paying the violation. They were going to court, they're being written violations, but were they being paid? And I have to tell you, I was shocked how little payments are going in for these summonses. It's like, they get adjourned or they're going to work with them. And it's really, it's disturbing.
We had a supermarket burn in the middle of February this past winter. And the inspector was at the scene, blamed another inspector who had retired. So I called him and he said he wrote appearance ticket after appearance ticket for that property. They'd show up for court, ask for an adjournment, which they're entitled to. A lot of people do that to get an attorney or whatever, get prepared. And then it would just never get placed back on the agenda. This went on for like 40 years and it could have killed firefighters.
Exactly. Is that 19 Main Street?
It's 19 Main Street. I still challenge the town of Ramapo and the state of New York to go over the history of that property. Page.
Is that where they went over the sewer lines and everything too, right? Didn't they build over the easements? They built
a big portion of this so-called supermarket on top of Metro North's property, and they had said cease and desist, and then the town actually defended the fact that they were on there. No site plan, no variances. So, I've challenged Supervisor Speck. Let's look at this one and see how it can be explained. So,
what I can say down here in Ocean County, and throughout New Jersey, for that matter, the issue is that everything is by political appointment. So you have a mayor in a township who is granted a political appointment position at the county level, and then you have all these county commissioners who are all beholden to whatever group, and they appoint our judges, and it is just a trickle-down situation that it's almost like collusion.
Yeah.
The fact that there is, citizens going after specific groups of people is so untrue. We have a huge issue over by Great Adventure, Six Flags, and it's a two-way highway, one way each way.
Right.
And now they clear-cutted, they're putting in a monstrosity, and that is a situation that residents have come out in force to fight. It is a major safety issue. That is the main thoroughfare to get to the hospital, and you can't even get there.
Wow. Oh, that's a problem.
This is being pushed through.
Yeah.
So, for example, today, I had tried to contact code enforcement at 3 different residents that reached out to me. Illegal conversion of a basement. They believe that it's a dormitory now. Another illegal conversion going on.
Wow.
And
we're seeing a lot of that. We have a ton of callers.
Eleanor, we'll have to, maybe next time we do this, we'll make a reserve like a 15, 20-minute portion. So the phone calls are starting to back up. And and a couple of things you said, though, political appointments are usually not a good idea when it comes to enforcement. In Spring Valley, the lawsuit the individual who was in charge of the building department was a political appointment, apparently. And I think we have a civil service system that should be adhered to, et cetera, et cetera. And, the first caller, if you listened, Ellen, the first caller was making all kinds of accusations. I don't doubt that there were inspectors or administrators who persecuted people, not just the Jewish religion, others too.
Sure. Yep.
So our goal is that everyone should be treated the same.
Absolutely.
No one group can come in as a culture and think it's okay to find ways to get around the codes and work without building permits and put people in buildings without that aren't.
What I can say, and I'm going to end with this, one of our codes is to maintain your lawn. We have elderly people who can no longer physically mow their lawn or attend to it in the manner that the town wants it done. Mm-hmm. These people are getting violations.
Right.
Just for their lawn. And, so this discrimination card, it's not working. Mm-hmm. But I will be offering all the violations paid moving forward.
Okay.
Right now,
this sounds like
a hard time.
This sounds like it'll be like maybe for the next show. We could talk about this. Thank you so much for calling.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Eleanor.
All
Thank
good points.
you.
All right, we'll take one more call and let's cover an example of political influences utilized to affect the enforcement programs.
Exactly. I'd like to talk about
All right, caller, you have a quick one for us?
Yes, actually, I want to put construction and faith together very quickly. First of all, every life matters. Everyone deserves respect. If you have a faith, obviously that's what your belief is, right? So
Yes.
My faith, we have our beliefs, but we also taught to respect all people. And I want to just go back. My dad used to be a foreman and worked in the city. And one day he came home in the afternoon. My mother goes, "What are you doing home?" And he says, "You know what?" He goes, "I didn't agree with what they were doing, using these materials and et cetera, et cetera." And he quit the job. He totally quit it. And thank God he did, because there was a problem, okay, because they weren't following safety measures. So everybody has to follow safety measures, and everybody should have respect for each other.
I agree.
Exactly.
Construction and faith. Construction and faith for all.
I agree, and there are good and bad people in every group.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To you too.
So we were talking with the first caller who really started the program out with a bang with the crazy, irresponsible accusations, which are for the most part not true. I'm not saying that things were always handled properly by the prior administration, but I can say with certainty that this administration is not handling things even close.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we mentioned that inspectors, if they're doing a good job in these communities, fairly, good enforcement, they get penalized many times. And then the ones that are being flexible, that's where we left off before the call started, they get penalized. So in Airmont, they had a full-time building inspector, full-time fire inspector, full-time code enforcement, and a part-time code enforcement officer.
Correct. Yes.
So now they're hiring a company called Fusco to do fire inspections at now they had a full-time fire inspector, I assume was 40 hours a week.
Yep.
Yes, correct.
So they go with Fusco's a private company.
Yep. 10 hours a week.
10 hours a week, $125 an hour. There's no way in the world that the needs of the community can be met.
I actually have a letter from the Tallman Fire District.
Yeah, let's say that pretty much says
I'm just going to kind of sum up what they said. They're advising that they're concerned about the actions the board took at its last meeting. There appears to be a lack of recognition that the facts that fires are related to emergencies occur not only on the weekday, but evenings, nights, as well as holidays and weekends. On many such calls, we observe conditions that need to be corrected and code violations that require a response from the fire inspector. In these cases, on residential properties, that means the volunteer responders have to stay on the scene until the inspector arrives. How will this be accomplished without a full-time inspector who's not available 24/7? And then they ask, do they have resumes? Are they certified by New York State? Will they be providing us with that information? It's a very serious issue, and there's a lot of businesses in Airmont and they need to be inspected every 1 to 3 years. This is something that has to happen. And, why isn't the Tolman Fire Department the fire inspectors anyway? If there's someone qualified there, why can't they do the inspections?
Well, they'd have to go through civil service and all that. There's no reason why they can't be on, and shouldn't, a firefighter should be on every planning board.
But they said they didn't even consult them about this.
Yeah, did you read that part where he said it would have been nice if they reached out to us?
It says, we were quite frankly shocked to learn that the board had took such a unilateral action without first consulting the fire service for our professional insight and understanding of fire inspection needs. You have neglected to get input from the most impacted by your action.
So Airmont is covered mostly by the Tolman Fire Department and a portion of the Muncie Fire Department. So they had a fire over the weekend, and they needed a fire inspector on for Saturday or Sunday, and frequently 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
And I know that in the past that this company has not had people available to cover, and at 10 hours a week.
Yeah.
And by the way, at $125, 10 hours a week, they could have a full-time employee for that amount of money.
That's almost $60,000.
So why are they hiring this firm? And it seems to be a trend now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Steve, we have callers?
Not just, Fusco was just hired in Chestnut Ridge, South Blooming Grove, they cover there, and quite a few other villages around. So it's very interesting, and I'm really shocked that they didn't even talk to the fire department, the Tolman Fire Department, about this.
No, that's not right. One of our listeners just texted me saying, a government does the bidding of those governed. When a subset of those governed has undue influence over said government, that subset will be served to their liking. Said subset will use the anti-prefix as a scarecrow to keep away due scrutiny. Interesting comment that we could probably put quotes around.
And you and I have met with the inspectors and the former attorney trying to talk about, 3 or 4 places that had major violations. And,
Well, the first call, I believe, is involved in the peripheral with the village government and,
Yes.
and the election of the current board.
Yes.
That is correct.
Now, one of those properties is a school. I've been operating illegally for a school for several years. And the building inspector, I think, was prevented from prosecuting. We met with the attorney, and why aren't you prosecuting? She promised they would get a search warrant.
Right.
And then in the interim, they put out like a marketing tool on social media. It's like a video.
A YouTube video.
It was very nice. It was very good, by the way. It was very well done.
Very
I was
well
thinking
done.
of getting his elbow.
So you don't need a search warrant. They gave it to you. And he said, here's the information. You could take that and show it to the judge for crying out loud.
Right.
But they still have, to this date, have they done any prosecution?
No.
No,
How
they have
about
not.
One
No.
Tolman Place? I don't know who owns that property.
Oh, one Tolman's a whole
Is it
other
in violation
thing.
for
Yes.
how long? 14 years?
Yes,
Something ridiculous?
absolutely.
Is it that long? Or?
They keep changing owners, but yeah, there's been a multiple. But there was somebody fell down the stairs. I think it was last summer. So
At that
they
location?
haven't. Yeah, they haven't fixed that.
But for the prior caller, can you explain to us? Call back another time when you're calmer, and we can have a rational conversation instead of a tirade. We just go on and on.
Right.
Look into one Tolman Place and find out how that multiple dwelling was apparently built illegally is allowed to continue despite being in violation in the village of Airmont going back to the prior administration.
Right.
And we have no idea who owns that. And as you said, the owners keep changing.
Yes, correct.
And as well as the one you're talking about.
Right.
We didn't give the address, but it's on Hillside Avenue.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's a couple on Hillside Avenue. One's an abandoned house that has an illegal circular driveway, and and the other one has a school. And one of the things that people want, residents want, is just to know what's going on at the house. So originally the applicant had come in and asked to make was asking for certain things. It didn't get past CDRC. So but the problem is there's so many different things that go on. It's a farm, it's a school, they're doing a rock video, there's, multiple,
See, I don't even care about the farm so much. It's more of a zoning and quality of life for the people who live there.
Right.
But inside that building, if that's being used as a school, and number one, without inspections, I think they had a building permit, if I recall. The inspector briefed me on it. And then they did work and then wouldn't let the inspector in when he went there.
Right.
So, right off the bat, I would go and get a search warrant. If you have the evidence, go get a search warrant. So, but they're going around the democratic process. What you showed me photographs of the one you guys drove by last week.
Yes.
It's a former one-family house. Looked like a big high ranch, and there was someone on the roof for some reason. But there's
Yes.
a big commercial parking lot in the front yard. But these things are supposed to go to the planning board for site plan approval.
Absolutely.
CRC, site plan approval, any variances if they're needed. Then a building permit is issued, and then inspections are made, and then you can be assured that if your children are going to that, if that's really a school.
Oh, it is a school. Yes.
That the children are in a safe building. Now, we went to one on Summer Park Road several years ago, and it was so bad. It was just beyond bad. How
Right.
parents could send their children to a place like this. For any parent should know that their building is safe, and bad things still happen even in buildings that are code compliant. So it's a dangerous world out there. So, I mean, it's indisputable. The evidence is there. This current administration is not enforcing the codes
Right.
adequately. They're not following their own procedures, which call for site plan and and variances.
Right, exactly.
And those two examples we just gave were just one of many many examples.
And the enforcement of the police also with Hillside. Many residents had been sending in, hundreds of pictures of overweight vehicles going over that bridge. There's a bridge that's closer to West Saddle River Road on Hillside Avenue. And finally, they just had to condemn the bridge until it can get fixed. And hundreds of pictures. And I would foil to find out if, any tickets were given out. I couldn't find any tickets, It's like... cement trucks and, buses and, all sorts of things. And it clearly says 3-ton weight limit, but, that was it.
How will the village board meetings run?
Oh, Danielle.
The meeting this past Monday started an hour and 20 minutes late.
Why?
The deputy mayor had a situation that prevented him from getting there. They held off starting to accommodate him because he's the only one who knows how to live stream the meetings. But
there was no live stream.
No,
it was a 2-minute live stream.
Yeah, 2 minutes and 40 seconds
so
were live streamed.
It was a valid reason. They needed him there, so they couldn't start without being there. But
yes, but the bottom line is life happens. People get sick. Someone else.
They actually had a quorum. That's not true. They had the mayor, and they had 3 other trustees. They could have went on with the meeting.
They did, and it doesn't have to be live streamed.
They wouldn't have had,
they do the live stream for the residents.
Yeah, but anyone's free to go to the meetings now. Things have opened up, and some rather unusual situations happened this past Monday. One of the trustees has been designated to supervise the building department. Trustees have no authority to do such a thing to village employees. And to the best of my knowledge, the trustee who is designated to be the supervisor has absolutely no expertise to supervise knowledgeable people who have certifications and passed numerous tests to be in the positions that they are. And I question the motive of doing something like that. Why are you putting someone has no knowledge to, quote, supervise people when one of them is actually considered the supervisor of the building department for the village?
Wow.
Interesting.
Well, I don't think they understand the seriousness of this, but if they're following what took place in Spring Valley, that's an extreme example probably in their minds, but it's not. Because most of the fatalities, as Jerry Knapp has said in the last few weeks on programs here, most fatalities take place in smaller buildings, one-family homes.
Yes.
Now, you take a one-family home and convert it into a whatever it might be with 50, 100 people, it increases the chances because the hallways in a residential home are more narrow than they would be in a code-compliant school, and you have more exits and things like that. And small children shouldn't be up on upper floors and all kinds of things like that. It's just they're creating a really dangerous culture of flagrantly violating all these codes that were in existence like Heather mentioned, in Miami, now they're inspecting all the buildings after a tragedy.
Terrible tragedy.
Almost every one of these fire codes, in particular, building codes too, many times, are enacted because people died, and a lot of people may have died. And now to just arbitrarily come in and ignore those codes is so irresponsible. And going back to 19 Main Street, a investigator looked at those photographs that we had and said to me, this complex looks like something you'd find in Haiti after one of the hurricanes where they're just trying to throw a building back together. You know, and I agree. It's like someone took driftwood off the shore and shipping containers and put it all together.
Wasn't it in the shape of like a question mark too? They just kept adding on to the main building.
One of the firefighters who was inside described it that. I didn't quite understand. In one of the media things, he described being inside there as being in a question mark. So I'm not sure what he meant because I wasn't in there. Maybe we can have one of the assistant chiefs from Tallman was leading in the crew inside. Before everyone pulled him out, thankfully. And he could maybe, call in one day. We can describe that. But I still challenge Supervisor Specht and the state building codes and standards to use 19 Main Street as a case study because it's just one of many.
Absolutely.
And I also challenged the prior caller, if he wants to come in a civilized, calm, rational manner, and we'll have a discussion.
Oh, absolutely.
Have a discussion where one person stops talking so the other person can answer. And I would be more than happy to have him come in and or call him, but with some ground rules that we respect each other. And we let each other talk.
And he's known to falsify information. He came into MAWA and gave a false name and a false address and gave testimony. And he said his name was Jack Berger, and he said he lived at 3 Echo Ridge.
Oh, that's the famous Jack Berger on social media?
So, you really have to take what he's saying with a grain of salt. We have the video of it. It's I knew because I was watching live that night, and when he gave 3 Echo Ridge, I knew who Rabbi Halberstrom was, and I said, that's not Rabbi Halberstrom.
Is that the same person who was like one of the election workers was claiming that she was being harassed?
Yes,
on election night, village election night.
So you have to kind of take
it was
where
2
that's
gentlemen
coming from.
In particular.
I saw some footage of that. I think, or I forgot. I read something.
I think you saw footage of the candidates who won counting their own absentee ballots.
So, Jack, if you want to actually come back and have a intelligent, rational, calm discussion of the facts, we're always welcome to do that. So we encourage you to do that.
I wanted to give out if people want to get involved, you can go to Coupon Rockland. It's CUPON Rockland.org. And there's a donate button. You can pick which coupon you need to want to get involved with. You can send an email and ask to get on one of our mailing lists. But we have a legal way of challenging things that are not. If there's something being violated, we will challenge it.
Also, I remembered one more thing I wanted to point out about this private company that Airmont is hiring at
Fusca
for the 10 hours a week for the same amount of money they could get a full-time employee. The fire chief in another community that uses them said that they're never available at night. Nights and weekends, they don't have any inspectors available. And then the fire chief gave this inspector from this private company 2 serious violations in 2 separate buildings. 2 years later, he said, you still haven't addressed them. They're still in violation. And this person, this private employee, working for a village as a contractor, said that he gets no support for enforcing violations. And if he pushes this, he'd lose his job. So that is a real serious statement.
Yeah.
Yes, it
I'm
is.
getting it secondhand, so I wish I could get the person who heard it, testify to it. So we have a caller, Steve. Good morning. You're on the air. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Could you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, you're loud and clear, sir.
Yes, okay. Yeah, good morning. My name is Lionel, and I've called a few times on your radio show. One of the concerns that I have is in regard to apartment 6 Maxine. That used to be a two family home, and I believe they converted to a 7-family. I actually went there to look at an apartment a few months ago, and I had to walk away because I was concerned for my safety. Especially since not too long ago we lost one of our firemen, I believe Mr. Lloyd. I would like to know what's going on with that. How come
Caller, we're almost out of time, but I wish you had called earlier in the program, and maybe you can call back next week and we can discuss this in more detail. But I'll give you the Reader's Digest version of that property. The state of New York asked us for examples, blatant examples, where the Village of Spring Valley and the town of Rampo and other villages were not enforcing the state fire and building codes. So we gave several examples from each municipality. One of those we gave several years ago. You're talking, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe more, was that address, 6 Maxine Court. It was a legal 2-family house and had 7 apartments in it and a big addition. And the conditions were deplorable. We had Channel 7 go there, or Channel 4, NBC News did a special on it, a piece on it. And the village never enforced it. So in February, just before the fatal fire, we submitted another list of examples, and we put that down, but there was a typo. It was 2 Maxine, it should have been 6 Maxine. So the village has known about this for years. I believe they finally went out in maybe April of this year. They're probably in violation. They probably gave them a violation notice, but then they don't do anything in court.
That's what it
See
sounds
what I mean?
like. Sounds like one Tolman.
You raise. Can you call back next week?
Okay, but I guess I wanted to raise that up because, like I said, we one of a fireman, and it was a pretty sad case. He was a father of 2.
Yes.
And to see buildings like that was converted and then nothing was done. I'm not sure who's the inspector who actually was able to allow them to have a 7-family home.
It's a perfect example of lack of enforcement, and it's so dangerous. Our firefighters going into there would have been extreme danger trying to rescue those poor kids who are living there with their parents. So if you can reach out to us again, Steve, do you say there's a problem next Friday?
You can reach out to Coupon Airmont.
Who wants to be a volunteer
Coupon
comes
Rock.
back next Friday.
Yeah, call back next Friday if you can, and do it maybe a little earlier in the program so we can discuss this in detail. You bring up a prime example of the lack of enforcement in the Village of Spring Valley.
And you can reach out to Gordon on couponrockland.org and just ask somebody to get a message to him and.
Yes, and anyone could. That applies to other listeners as well.
All right, and Who Wants to Be a Volunteer returns next Friday morning after the 9 o'clock news, WRCR.